Hey guys, I'm Dezz Asante from the TechMuze podcast at techmuse.ca, and this is a tour of my little home studio. Joe Gilder over at the Home Studio Corner posted a nice video tour of his little ensemble, and he sort of requisitioned us to do the same. So this is my sort of answer to the call. So I'm gonna flip the camera around. I'm using my iPhone to shoot this, so hopefully it turns out okay, and I'll let you see what I got going on here. All right. So here we are. As you can see, my studio is located in the unfinished basement of my home. My wife and I flip houses, and so I don't have an opportunity to really do up my room acoustically and get it all proper, but I work with what I've got in the meantime. This is our last flip, and we're going to be building a house that we're going to stay in, and I look forward to having the opportunity to really have a nice space to work in. But in the meantime, this gets the job done. Walking around this side, this is the my Rep Percussion Drum Kit that I have spoken about on the show. Since the last video that I shot of this drum kit a couple of years back, I have expanded on it a little bit. I've added a bunch of new pieces, built a couple myself, and it really gets the job done. What we're dealing with here is I've got two snare drums with Evans coated heads on. They respond really nice. They have a good feel. Normally I set the one on the left up as sort of a tighter sort of piccolo type of snare, and the main snare as kind of a deeper sort of a Ludwig Black Beauty is oftentimes what I choose. Pair of hi-hats from Smart Trigger. Got a China cymbal. I use it as a China cymbal, although it doesn't look like one, that I built myself from an old hi-hat I had lying around, hi-hat cymbal. Crashes, Splash, another crash from Smart Trigger. My ride cymbal, Dual Zone, and another cymbal that I built myself that I also use as another China cymbal. Couple of floor toms that I made from an old 13-inch tom I had kicking around. They're dual zone. They work really, really good. I use this Yamaha pad in the corner as a cowbell most of the time. A couple more rack toms that came with the Ret kit. And another Yamaha pad that I use as a 8-inch tom sound. I normally map it to. So I got nice 5 toms to smack on, which is more than you need in most cases, but it's nice to have. Down below, I've got my 13-inch kick with my double kick pedal. There's the other half of that pedal there, and my hi-hat controller, which is a Roland FD8. And then the other pedal I have down there is another little Yamaha kick pad that I use typically as like a clave, woodblock, or percussion sound on my left foot. And that's the drum kit. I use a TD10 by Roland, the module, as my main module, and then down below, if you look down here, is the Alesis Trigger I/O, which I use. I have too many pads and cymbals to be supported by one module. It doesn't have enough inputs, so that's how I get around that. And moving over to the left, to the right, excuse me, there's my Washburn J9, my big fat arch top that I have a lot of fun with. My Studio Logic Midi Controller, SL880, that's a full 88 weighted notes, just a Midi controller, no sounds on board that device. Right there is a little sneak peek at my latest studio purchase, which is my Magic Trackpad that I use to control my my computer. There it sits right there. I love this thing. I suffer from repetitive stress injuries that are related to long hours of my hand on the mouse, and this gets my hand in a different position and allows me to work for as long as I need to work without any pain or discomfort, and that's just fantastic. You can do a lot with those little trackpads. There's my little tiny MIDI controller for sort of quick input that I use when I just need to quickly enter in a little melody or bass line or what have you. Down below you can kind of see the glowing, I call them bling lights, of my computer. There's the computer itself. This is a machine, you can't really see it in the dark, but this is a machine that I built myself a year or so ago, and it runs OS X Snow Leopard, so I guess you could call that a Hackintosh, I believe is the common term. It's great because it gives me a modular system that I can open up and put PCI cards in and expand any way I need to, but I get the benefit of running OS X Snow Leopard, which is arguably, in my opinion anyway, the best operating system of the modern age. So over here we've got, well, there is my Shure Sm7b. That is the microphone that I use to record the podcast, amongst other things. It's a great, versatile, large diaphragm dynamic mic that that sounds good on almost anything you stick in front of it. There's my main monitors, my Tapco S5s, which are by Mackey. And I'll switch over to this side. You might be able to see it a little better. Those are 5-inch monitors, powered. They rest upon a pair of Auralex Mopads to decouple them from the surface that they sit on, and it does a great job. As you can see, I have my main 22-inch display there that supports my mix, and over here is my 19-inch secondary display that I normally keep the arrange window open on. And you'll notice I have the TT Loudness Meter, the dynamic range meter, that was brought to my attention during all of the Dynamic Range Day festivities, and I use this now religiously, just to keep an eyeball on my dynamic range when I'm finalizing my mix and make sure I'm not squashing too much. Sometimes the ear gets tired and you can't, you don't trust it anymore. This gives me a real quick visual indicator as to how dynamic my mixes are. I love it, and it was free, so hey. There is my iPad. The iPad normally is the thing that I use to keep my notes. If I'm recording the podcast, I keep my notes up here as to the things that I'm going to be talking about, and so I don't have to try to memorize everything. And right here we have the Mackie Control Universal, the first generation MCU that I use as my main control surface, and it gives me tactile control over my software, as you can see there. Here we go. Let's see. Grab this fader, and when I grab that fader, you see the fader on screen moving, and the fader on my edit window moving, and it gives me a lot of control over the software. It gets my hand off the mouse, which, as I mentioned earlier, can be important. If you spend long hours with your hand on the mouse, it can get painful, very uncomfortable. And a little to the left, I have another Hackintosh that I put together. It used to be a Dell Inspiron in its former life, and now is my my little Hackbook Pro, I call it. And I typically use that machine if I'm on a Skype call that I'm recording. I can Skype on that machine and record my own side of the conversation in the studio. And so I have a nice, clean recording of my side of the conversation. The person I'm speaking with would typically do the same on their end, and then we can sync the files together later and have a nice, clear audio for both sides of the conversation. So I also use it as my sort of quick reference. If I need to pull something up on the internet real quick while I'm working, I can do that without having to change anything on the computer. And right to either side of my main monitor, you'll see are the tiny little lo-fi speakers that I had referred to in one of the episodes of TechMuze. That's an LC, what does that say, 693. I don't know what that is, who makes them. They're probably worth no more than a couple of dollars, but they serve the purpose of getting me a secondary reference, which I explained in great detail on, I believe it was episode 2 of TechMuze. Check that out if you're curious as to how that works. Over here we have my sadly defunct Mackie controller. It no longer works at all. Mackie actually told me that they are unable to fix it, so I'm going to see if I can pursue that a little bit, because I believe a company should be able to support their own products for at least a number of years, and so we'll see if we can get that sorted out. But that's a story for another day. And here we go. This is